Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be looking at the Pacific side of World War II. So, we're going to start with the major Pacific battles of World War II. So, just a recap World War II was from September 1939 to September 1945. It was the Axis powers of Germany, Italy, and Japan versus the Allied powers of Great Britain, France, the Soviet Union, and the United States. The Soviet Union joined in June 1941, and the United States joined in December 1941. So, how did we get here? Let's talk about Japan's rise. Well, Japan is a small island nation. Japan lacks natural resources. Because of this lack of natural resources, Japan could not become a powerful country and a world leader. So here is where Japan is located. So the solution Japan had was to conquer other countries. Battles were fought throughout the Pacific, including Japan, China, Korea, the Philippines, and many small islands. Japan's aggression grows. So, Japan already invaded Manchuria when World War II started in Europe. In 1941, Hideki Tojo, an army general, becomes Prime Minister of Japan. Tojo wanted to attack the United States. What? Why would they want to attack the United States? Well, the US was neutral, but Tojo wanted to ensure the US could not stop Japan from invading countries in the future. Tojo decided to attack the US Navy and sink enough ships to keep the US from challenging Japan. And specifically, Japan was facing a oil embargo from the United States due to its imperialist actions in Asia. Which brings us to Pearl Harbor. December 7th, 1941, Japanese fighter pilots attacked the U.S. Pacific Fleet in Hawaii. The U.S. was surprised and not prepared. So here we have some pictures from the attack. So there were 3,000 American casualties. Here we have the USS Arizona, where 1,000 men were trapped inside. Here we have the USS West Virginia, the USS Tennessee. The USS Oklahoma is capsized, and you see the USS Maryland in the back. Within 2 hours, 20 naval vessels were destroyed, including 8 battleships. The USS Arizona was the first battleship to sink. More than 300 airplanes were destroyed. But Japan's plan had backfired. Within about 24 hours from the attack, U.S. entered World War II on December 8th. So Japan was not successful because aircraft carriers were viewed as the most important Navy vessel. The U.S. aircraft carriers were not at Pearl Harbor during the attack. Japan also failed to destroy oil storage facilities, shipyards, submarine docks, so the U.S. was able to recover quickly. What did Japan do? Well, it awakened the sleeping giant. It brought the U.S. into the war. So, The next big battle, the Battle of Midway. June 3rd, 1942. Japan attacks the Aleutian Islands to create a diversion from their real target, the Midway Atoll, which is right off the coast of Hawaii. The US was not tricked. The US knew the Imperial fleet would attack Midway because they had broken the Japanese naval code. The US Pacific Fleet had battleships placed in strategic places waiting for the Japanese Imperial fleet. Here we have a picture of the USS Yorktown being attacked by Japanese bombers. Here we have the USS Atlanta and the USS Phelps, and the Japanese cruiser, the Mikuma. Here we have some Japanese bombers. So, the battle lasted 3 days. Japan gave up. The Imperial fleet lost all 4 carriers, 250 aircraft, and over 5,000 casualties. The Pacific Fleet lost 147 aircraft and about 300 casualties. This was a turning point in the war, and the US began attacking Japan. Next, we have the Battle of Guadalcanal. This goes from August 7th, 1942 to February 9th, 1943. Japan controlled most of Southeast Asia and was beginning to threaten Australia, a US ally. Okay, and here's the island. The first battle the US attacked Japanese forces. The US surprised Japan, but Japan did not give up. When US Marines landed on the island, the Imperial fleet sank Allied cruisers off the coast. Here's US patrol on the island. The US Marines were isolated. Japanese troops were sent in. Here we have some Japanese planes being shot down. The USS Wasp being attacked by Japanese. In mid-November, Japan sent an additional 10,000 troops. The Japanese were unable to advance. The Japanese had to retreat. This loss marked the first time Japan lost land in World War II. Japanese losses and Allied losses. There were 31,000 casualties for the Japanese. There were 7,100 casualties for the Allies. The Japanese lost 38 ships. The Allies lost 29 ships. So, Australia is no longer worried about a Japanese invasion. Now we have the Battle of Saipan. This is June 15th, 1944 to July 9th, 1944. U.S. began island hopping to take over Japanese-held islands on their way to Japan. The U.S. wanted control because the island's airfields would be close enough to Japan to use its new B-29 bombers. Japan wanted control because they would stop the Allied advance. When the Japanese commander knew defeat was imminent, he commanded his troops to launch a banzai attack. On July 6, 4,000 troops from Japan, armed with swords, bayonets, grenades, and knives, surprised Allied troops. This was the largest banzai attack of World War II. 30,000 Japanese troops defended Saipan. When the battle was over, less than 1,000 remained alive. And many committed suicide, as did thousands of civilians. Okay, so here we have some pictures of flamethrowers and some rocket launchers and caves being busted. So the U.S. continued to carve a path to Japan. Now we have the Battle of the Philippine Sea. This takes place June 19th to June 20th, 1944. Took place off the coast of Saipan. It was one of the largest aircraft carrier battles of World War II. Here's a picture of Japanese aircraft carrier and naval vessels under fire. Here we have a Japanese airplane being shot down. The Imperial fleet and Japanese Air Force were critically damaged. Japan planned on delivering more troops to Saipan, but with a loss in the Philippine Sea, the U.S. controlled the seas around Saipan. 3 carriers were sunk and 400 aircraft were destroyed. This was a huge victory for the Allies. Now we have the Battle of Leyte Gulf, taking place between October 23rd and 26th, 1944. This is the largest naval battle of World War II. Some consider it the greatest naval battle in history. Took place in the Philippine Islands. This is the first battle the U.S. witnessed kamikaze or suicide attacks. One quick note, in Japanese, kamikaze does not mean suicide attack. So here we see U.S. carriers under attack by Japanese airplanes and the U.S. carriers being struck by kamikaze. Japan's Imperial fleet was completely destroyed. So let's look at the Japanese and Allied losses. Japanese lost 28 warships. The Allied lost 5. Japanese lost 10,500 people. The Allied lost 2,500. The Allied forces were able to take control of the Philippines and had greater control of the Pacific. So, Japan lost major trade routes from Southeast Asia to its home islands. Next, we have the Battle of Iwo Jima. This takes place from February 19th to March 26th in 1945. Iwo Jima is only 5 miles by 2.5 miles. It's a very small island, 750 miles south of Japan. This battle is memorialized with a monument in Washington, D.C. And if you drive up I-91 in Connecticut, you will see our own memorial to Iwo Jima. And here's the picture of the Iwo Jima War Memorial in Virginia. So, Allied troops outnumbered Japanese troops, but the Japanese fought unrelentingly. This meaning they would not give up. Before Allied troops hit the ground, planes and battleships bombed the island. When Allied troops landed, the Japanese didn't attack them. The Allies thought most of the Japanese were dead. So here we see the U.S. naval vessels approach Iwo Jima for invasion. The Allies were wrong. The Japanese changed their tactics. Instead, they fought from caves, dugouts, tunnels. The Japanese hid until the Allies made their way inland. Then they launched surprise attacks. Allied troops used flamethrowers to flush out the Japanese from their hiding spots. Allied troops used heavy artillery to fire on Japanese hiding spots as well. Allied planes provided support for ground troops by bombing the Japanese. K-9s were used in front lines to find Japanese snipers and carry messages quickly. Here we have a picture of an Allied soldier in a foxhole using a telephone. Both sides suffered huge losses. The Allies suffered 23,000 casualties. The Japanese had 21,000 casualties out of the 22,000 who fought. The US now had a close base for their B-29 bombers to attack Japan. The Allies win. Now we have the Battle of Okinawa. This takes place from April 1st to June 22nd, 1945. Okinawa is a small set of islands 350 miles southwest of Japan. It is the bloodiest battle in the Pacific theater. Okinawa could serve as a base for air raids on Japan's mainlands. Once again, Japanese troops used caves, tunnels, and dugouts. An Allied plane firebombs an area to kill Japanese troops that are hiding. K-9s were used again to find hiding Japanese. So here you have school children serenading a kamikaze pilot before takeoff. And here's the U.S. Enterprise being hit by a kamikaze pilot. Here is the Allied troops bombing a cave using dynamite. And a land target is hit by one of the U.S. battleships. Here we have U.S. plane dropping bombs on Okinawa. So, Japanese casualties were 70,000. The Allied casualties were 40,000. Civilian casualties were 100,000. The bloodbath at Okinawa was a major factor in U.S. President Harry Truman's decision not to invade Japan. Looking at the civilian casualties, that was enormous, and it remains a sour topic for people who live in Okinawa today. President Truman decided not to risk tens, if not hundreds of thousands of American lives by invading. Instead of invading Japan, President Truman decided to drop atomic bombs on Hiroshima on August 6th and Nagasaki August 9th, cities in Japan. His plan worked. On August 14th, Japan surrendered unconditionally. At this point, World War II was finally over, and the Axis powers were defeated. That is all for today. See you next time.